When I was 13, my concept of horror was still tied to movies and made-up stories. Ghosts, jump scares, and the kind of horror that disappears once the screen goes black. I didn't believe in anything supernatural. At least, not until that one sleepover at Marcus's house. It happened during summer break, those long, humid nights when curfews barely mattered, and all that really existed was junk food, gaming marathons, and telling scary stories just to freak each other out. There were 4 of us: me, Marcus, Elijah, and Tommy. We'd been best friends since grade school. That summer, Marcus's parents went out of town for a weekend trip, and he invited us over for a guys-only horror movie night. We were pumped. No parents, full control of the house, and the freedom to stay up as late as we wanted. But none of us had ever really explored Marcus's house before. It was old, like creaky wooden stairs and thin walls old. The kind of place that had a history without needing to tell you. When we got there, Marcus gave us the tour. Kitchen, living room, basement, which he jokingly said was cursed. And then the upstairs hallway, where we'd all be sleeping in his room. Right outside that room, in the ceiling of the hallway, was the attic door. It was one of those small, square hatches with a dangling metal ring in the center. No ladder, no pulley system, just that silent, slightly off-colored square up there. It looked ancient, discolored around the edges, like no one had touched it in decades. Marcus caught me staring at it. "Yeah," he said. "My dad says never to mess with it. Says there's nothing up there but old insulation and nails." Tommy chimed in. "Looks haunted." Elijah said, "Bet there's a body bag up there." We all laughed, but I noticed something in Marcus's face, like he wasn't quite comfortable joking about it. We moved on and set up camp in his room. Blankets, chips, and a TV streaming some grainy horror flick from the 90s. The sun went down around 8, and by 10, we had the lights off, the movie blasting, and the room filled with that low-level anxiety that only horror movies in the dark can bring. At around 2:15 a.m., the movie ended. Elijah was already half asleep, Tommy was on his phone, and Marcus had gone to the bathroom. I lay on the floor staring at the ceiling fan, my thoughts buzzing. That's when I heard it. Thud. It wasn't loud, but it was precise, not random like the creaks of an old house. This was directly above us, above the hallway, above the attic door. I sat up. "Did anyone else hear that?" I asked. Tommy looked up, confused. "What?" Another thud. This time, Elijah sat up too. "What the hell was that?" Marcus came out of the bathroom and saw us frozen. "What?" We all looked at the ceiling. Nothing. Just silence. Then it came again. But different. A dragging sound, like someone slowly pulling something across a wooden surface. It started from one end of the ceiling, and it moved. Directly above Marcus's bedroom door. Directly over the attic hatch. "Bro," Tommy whispered. "Is someone in your attic?" Marcus looked pale. "It's probably raccoons or something." "No raccoon drags something across the ceiling like that," Elijah said. That sounded like furniture. We walked slowly into the hallway. The air felt heavier. The attic door loomed above us like a dark, gaping hole, even though it was shut. I looked up and froze. The metal ring was swinging, not wildly, just gently, like it had been pushed. Tommy whispered, "Oh, hell no." Suddenly, we heard a very soft tap, tap, tap. It was above us, like fingers against wood. Marcus backed into his room. "Get in the closet, now." We huddled into his bedroom closet, cramped, barely enough space for 4 boys. We shut the door, leaving just a sliver open. No one said a word. Our breathing was shallow, almost panicked. Every creak of the house made our muscles tighten. That's when I heard it. A voice, faint, like a woman, whispering. Not words, just unintelligible murmurs, garbled, distant, but inside the house. My throat dried. Elijah covered his mouth. Marcus was silently praying. Then it stopped. For the next hour, we didn't move. Eventually, our exhaustion started overpowering the fear. Around 4:30 a.m., Marcus cautiously opened the closet. The hallway was still. The attic hatch was closed, but there was something on the floor now. A line of white dust, stretching from under the attic hatch all the way into the far end of the hallway, like something had crawled out and dragged itself across the floor. We didn't sleep again that night. When the sun came up, we went outside and waited on the front steps until Marcus's uncle came over to check on us. He didn't believe the story, of course, but he agreed to go into the attic. When he came down, his face was blank. He said there was nothing unusual, just insulation and cobwebs. But then Marcus asked, "Was there a trail? Like something had been moving?" His uncle paused, then nodded. "There's a long path through the dust up there, like something or someone was crawling. But there's nothing up there. No animal, no holes, nothing." We never went back to Marcus's house after that night. 2 months later, they sold the place and moved. Marcus never talked about it again, but I can still hear that sound in my dreams sometimes. The slow dragging and the whispering. Whatever was in that attic, it wasn't looking for insulation. It was looking for someone. When I was 16, my family and I drove 4 hours to stay the weekend at my aunt and uncle's house in Vermont. They had this big colonial home, whitewood paneling, green shutters, and a long gravel driveway that crunched under the car tires as we pulled up. It was the kind of house that felt like it should be on the cover of a holiday card. Peaceful. Quiet. Too quiet. They'd invited us to stay for a small family reunion, and since they lived far out in the countryside, there was no nearby hotel. That meant all of us had to sleep somewhere in their house, even if it meant using old guest rooms and inflatable mattresses. My younger brother and I were assigned to a room at the end of the upstairs hallway. It was their guest room, and it hadn't been used in years. My aunt apologized ahead of time, saying it might be a little dusty. That was an understatement. When we opened the door, it smelled stale, like time had just stopped in there. Faded wallpaper peeled at the corners. A twin bed with a quilt cover sat under the window, and there was an antique dresser that looked like it belonged in a museum. But the thing that got to me was the portrait above the bed. It was an oil painting of a woman, Victorian style, pale face, blank eyes, hands folded on her lap. She looked wrong. I don't know how to explain it. Just wrong. "She's creepy," my brother muttered. "No kidding," I said. "Let's sleep with our backs to her." The first night went by with nothing unusual, just the awkwardness of trying to fall asleep in a foreign bed. But on the second night, something changed. I woke up around 3:10 a.m. My body just jolted awake like my brain sensed something was off. The room was dark, except for the moonlight coming through the curtains. That's when I heard it. Whispering. At first, I thought it was part of a dream, but then I realized I was fully awake, and the whispering was real. It was low, almost like someone was standing at the foot of the bed, speaking directly to us, but too quietly to make out words. I sat up slowly and scanned the room. My brother was still asleep. The room was empty. The door was shut. But the whispering continued. Not loud, but constant. And it was coming from the direction of the dresser. Now here's the thing, I didn't feel brave. I felt frozen. But some sick part of me needed to know what it was. I got up, every step like a weight pulling me down, and moved toward the dresser. As I got closer, the whispering stopped. Dead silence. I stood there for a moment, heart hammering, eyes scanning every shadow. Then the room got cold. Suddenly, I noticed something in the mirror attached to the dresser. Something faint. A reflection behind me. Not my brother. Not me. A tall, dark figure. I spun around. Nothing. But the feeling remained. Like someone was in the room, just outside my vision. I jumped back into bed, pulled the blanket over my face like a child, and just lay there, wide awake, until morning. When I told my brother what happened, he laughed it off. Said I was half dreaming. Maybe I was. But that night was just the beginning. The next evening we stayed up a bit later, playing games on my Switch until about 1:45 a.m. We turned off the light and settled in. At 2:30 a.m., my brother woke me up. "Hey," he whispered. "Do you hear that?" I listened, and I did. Knocking. 3 soft knocks. They were coming from inside the wall. My brother stared at the wall near the foot of his bed. "That's not the hallway, it's the outside wall." Then we heard it again. This time, 4 knocks. Slower. Heavier. I turned on the flashlight on my phone and aimed it at the wall. Nothing. Just old wallpaper. Then we both froze. Because slowly, like someone pressing from the other side, we saw the wallpaper bulge. A hand-shaped bulge. It pushed in, then disappeared. We ran downstairs and told our parents, and of course, they dismissed it. "Old houses make noises," they said. "You're letting your imagination run wild." So that night, they made us sleep in the same room again. Only this time, we didn't sleep. At exactly 3:12 a.m., the dresser drawer slid open. By itself. There was no wind, no movement in the room, just that drawer creaking open like someone inside was trying to reach out. My brother whispered, "Do you see that?" Before I could respond, we both heard it. That whispering again. Only now it was louder, closer, like someone was whispering between us. The words were still unintelligible, but urgent, angry, like begging. I turned on my flashlight again and pointed it at the portrait above the bed. And I swear to you, her expression had changed. Her eyes were open. Not painted open. They were just open. That was it. We screamed, loud enough to wake the entire house. Our parents came rushing in, flipped on the lights, and everything looked normal. The drawer was closed. The wall was flat. The portrait looked the same, but neither of us slept again, not even a wink. The next morning, our mom noticed something strange. 3 long scratch marks on the back of my brother's shoulder. No blood, just red lines. My aunt looked pale. When she asked us what room we'd been in, and we told her, she sat down at the kitchen table and whispered, "That used to be my grandmother's room. She passed away in that bed." Turns out, my aunt had stopped using the guest room years ago because her daughter, my cousin, had nightmares every time she slept there. Nightmares about a woman whispering in her ear and trying to pull her into the wall. We left that same afternoon. I've stayed in hotels ever since, and I'll never forget the way that wallpaper bulged, like something was trying to break into our world from the other side. Whatever was in that room wasn't finished with us, and I still wonder, what would have happened if we hadn't woken up? I was 14 years old the night I learned that some games aren't just games, they're invitations. It was supposed to be an ordinary Friday night. Just me and my best friend, Matt, hanging out at his house while his parents were away on a weekend trip. We had a routine: pizza, horror games, YouTube horror documentaries, then passing out sometime around 3 a.m. We were obsessed with creepy stuff. Urban legends, paranormal videos, unsolved mysteries, but we never thought any of it was real. Matt's house was pretty normal during the day, but once the sun went down, that place changed. Especially the basement. Now, this wasn't your typical creepy, unfinished basement with cobwebs and a flickering bulb. Matt's basement was fully furnished. Sofas, a TV, game consoles, even a small fridge. It should have felt cozy, but it didn't. Even with the lights on, the air always felt heavy, still, like the room was holding its breath. There were no windows down there, and something about the walls made sound feel like it got swallowed whole. It was just quiet, too quiet, like the kind of silence that could drive you mad if you sat in it long enough. That night, we were binge-watching a creepy YouTube series Matt found called Dark Net Rituals. It was one of those low-budget horror docu-series that explored forbidden games and rituals from around the world. Most of it seemed fake, like urban legends on steroids, but one segment caught our attention. It was titled, The Reflection Game, a Ritual of the In-Between. The narrator claimed it originated from an obscure 18th century belief that mirrors weren't just objects, but portals, gateways to what they called the other self. They said that if you looked into a mirror long enough under specific conditions, you could see who or what you really were, or what was looking back at you. Here were the instructions. 1. You had to be alone, or at least the only one reflected in the mirror. 2. You'd need a single lit candle placed exactly between you and the mirror. 3. You'd stare into your reflection, unblinking, for exactly 3 minutes. 4. Then, when the timer ends, you had to whisper the phrase, "I see you. Do you see me?" 5. And finally, you wait. If nothing happens, you're safe. But if the reflection changes, you've invited something in. Matt was instantly hooked. "Dude," he said, "we have to try this." I laughed nervously. "Come on, man. You know those are just stories." He grinned. "Exactly. So what's the harm?" I hesitated, but deep down, I was just as curious. There was something about the ritual that got under my skin. It felt ancient, dangerous, like opening a locked door just to prove it's safe. So we did it. Matt grabbed a medium-sized mirror from his sister's vanity and set it up on a coffee table. He found a tea candle in the kitchen drawer, lit it, and placed it directly in front of the mirror. Then we turned off the lights. The entire basement plunged into darkness except for the tiny, flickering flame. "Let me go first," Matt said. "You'll chicken out if you go now." He sat cross-legged in front of the mirror, the candlelight casting flickering shadows across his face. He set a timer on his phone for 3 minutes and tapped "Start." I sat on the edge of the couch, watching. The first minute was uneventful. Just Matt staring silently into the glass. His expression was neutral, calm. By the second minute, the silence began to feel oppressive, the kind that makes your ears ring. The candlelight seemed to dance more violently, even though there was no breeze. Matt's face started to look weird, distorted. Not like in a supernatural way, but like he wasn't blinking. Not even once. His eyes were locked, wide, almost too wide. His face was rigid, like he was in a trance. His breathing slowed so much I had to lean in just to check if he was still alive. By the third minute, I was starting to feel real dread. Then, the timer buzzed. Matt leaned closer to the mirror and whispered the phrase, "I see you. Do you see me?" We waited. At first, nothing happened. Then the candle flickered violently and blew out. Just like that. No wind, no movement. Just out. The basement was swallowed in darkness. "Matt?" I said. No answer. I fumbled for my phone flashlight, heart pounding. When I turned it on, Matt was still staring into the mirror, but the mirror was black. Completely. No reflection. Like it had turned into a sheet of dark water. Then, it started to ripple, just faintly, like something beneath the surface was moving. Matt suddenly gasped, loud, sharp, and primal, and jerked back from the mirror. "I saw something," he whispered, shaking. "I swear, I saw something." He grabbed the candle and relit it. We stared at the mirror again. Our reflections were back, but something was off. Behind us was a third shape. It wasn't clear, just a blur at first. A silhouette, standing in the darkness behind the couch, watching us. We spun around. Nothing. When we turned back to the mirror, the shape was closer. We bolted, turned on every light in the house, locked every door. We should have just gone to bed and forgotten it, but we didn't. I was dumb enough to say, maybe we should try it one more time. Matt looked at me like I was insane, but he didn't say no. So I sat in front of the mirror. Same setup, same candle, same pitch-black silence. 3 minutes of staring into my reflection. 3 minutes of growing dread. At first, it was just me. Then, the smile came. Not on my real face, only in the mirror. It stretched slowly across my reflection's mouth. A grin too wide for a human face. My real mouth was shut tight. My eyes were frozen. But the reflection, it was alive. It leaned forward. I stayed frozen in fear. Every cell in my body screamed to run, but I couldn't. I whispered the phrase, "I see you. Do you see me?" Then the mirror cracked, just a single hairline fracture down the center. The candle blew out again. I don't remember much after that. Matt told me I passed out for a minute. When I came to, the mirror was split clean down the middle. One half showed me. The other showed something else. It looked like me, but wrong. Eyes too dark. A smirk that never faded. And it didn't move like a reflection. It was watching us. We smashed the mirror that night and buried the shards in a field behind Matt's house. But that wasn't the end. For the next few nights, Matt said he saw my face in his mirror, smiling, staring at him when he brushed his teeth. I started waking up with scratches on my arms. And one morning, I found the words, "Do you see me?" written backwards in the condensation on my bathroom mirror. I still don't know what we let in, but sometimes, late at night, I'll glance at my reflection and see it smiling, just a little too wide, just a moment too long, and I wonder, did it ever leave?